Hi there, my name is Nicholas Tishkowski. So from what I understand, you wanted me to come up with a few ideas on how we can tackle our fall promotion involving the football tickets. So I came up with a couple of ideas for that, but before we get started, I want to quickly discuss why we're actually doing this. So the whole point of this project is to retain or bring in new customers to our restaurant during the restaurant off-season, that being the fall and the winter. So basically the whole point of this is to just get as many people into our restaurant coming through the doors as possible. So I came up with a couple of different ways that we could do this. We can either target students with this promotion, in which case we would offer a $10.99 buffet for those who provided a student ID on top of the actual promotion ticket. And we could offer a free dessert towards the purchase of a child buffet, two children's buffet, or an adults and a child's buffet. That would be an exclusive dessert that would only be achievable through bringing the actual coupon on top of purchasing those items. So let's go over the pros of the student option first. So as you know, there's no existing promotion for students at our locations. So this would help kind of draw in a new crowd that maybe otherwise would not be motivated to come to our locations, just based on the fact that we now have this promotion that they're interested in pursuing that only they can pursue because they are a student and have their student ID. It fits the target market really well, that being the target market of the actual football games in which we are promoting. So we know that a ton of students are going to be coming to these events, so we know that they're very likely to keep these ticket stubs and keep them with them and actually use them at our restaurants. And this works really well for our campus location as well, which has, again, been slightly underutilized because we don't have an existing promotion for students. It's basically just drawing more students into that specific location. As for the family option, it definitely will retain existing clientele. We know that we're popular with families because we already have that framework for families to kind of get the adult buffet and the children's buffet. It's sort of just a family environment in which they can kind of get pizza together and just have a good time. It may fit the target market really well, depending on how many actual people come to the football games that are just regular families. The likelihood of this being true is unknown, but there's a pretty good chance that many families would be coming to these events, and so it would make sense to market towards them. It also works really well for our in-town locations because those are the locations that more families are likely to visit. College students are less likely to visit the in-town locations, but families are even less likely to visit the campus location, so that's kind of a con for the family side. Let's go over some cons now on that note. So starting with the students, obviously it neglects the in-town locations a little bit more. It doesn't neglect them completely because students are more likely to be in town than families are to be on campus, but it's still a factor that we need to consider. And we must build new clientele with this promotion strategy. So we need to make sure that we do this aggressively enough that it actually attracts a significant portion of new customers towards our restaurant. That's really important for the continued survival of the restaurant itself. So the cons between the family approach is it really neglects the campus location as stated previously. Many families aren't going to go to the campus location because it's far more likely that one of the in-town locations is going to be closer to them, so that kind of neglects the campus location. It may not fit the target market. Again, it's a big if we're going to have a lot of families coming to these events. There's a pretty good chance that we're going to get a significant portion of families coming to the events, but if they don't actually come, then it's kind of useless. It's also kind of useless if, or rather I should say, the promotion will have very little impact on our numbers if families were intending to coming to our restaurant anyways, and they aren't actually motivated by the promotion as much as a student would be, because it's more of because if we are already targeting these families and we already know that they are going to be coming to our restaurants, then it's less likely that they're only going to be coming to our restaurants because of that motivating factor of the budget of promotion, the actual ticket. So that's a factor that we need to make sure we're considering behind how we do that. Moving forward, I believe that we should go forward with the student option simply because it makes more sense, and I think it's more likely to provide the the franchise as a whole with more customers. So here I made a little mock-up of what the ticket might look like, or the back of the ticket. So right here, obviously you have the deal, along with student special, just so it's clearly communicated that this is for students. Another thing that would be put on this ticket is that you must bring your student ID. That should also be a requirement in order to actually verify that they are students coming to these events. Advertised here are the actual food items that would be sold, along with a little picture, logo up here, as well as an expiration date. The expiration date is extremely important because the whole point of this event is to promote business in the off season, and if they're holding on to these tickets until the on season, then it kind of defeats the purpose of bringing in more customers, specifically during the off season, that being the winter and the fall. So it's also important that we have these expiration dates so we can look at the performance of how the actual promotion went how the promotion went, just to make sure that the actual tickets had an impact on sales. And we know exactly how many tickets were redeemed within a certain time frame, unless they were otherwise expired or lost. Another thing that we need to make sure that we're taking a look at is pricing, of course. Food pricing, obviously profit margins in the restaurant industry are razor thin. It's super important that we have these. It's usually about 20% of the food cost goes towards the actual ingredients. The rest of it is going to labor, and then at the end of the day, you only have about 20% of the actual price that the customer pays as profit. So obviously this is going to cut down on that profit, but again, it's going to build a new clientele that is then going to spend the full price later on. So the promotion is banking on the idea that this event will build new clientele that will come into our restaurant later, and will be driven not by the bargain, but instead by the quality of the products. So, with that out of the way, one more thing I wanted to get at is our marketing strategy as a whole. So, obviously, we're advertising ourselves as this. It's just a regular pizza joint. It's like it's the place that you want to automatically think of when you're thinking of places to go to eat. It's the kind of thing that nobody has to worry about if everybody's going to like it or not, because everybody likes it well, or at least well enough that they're not going to object going there, and it's inexpensive, which is a huge factor when you're in college. So this is the marketing strategy that we need to be pursuing going forward, and that is why this promotion kind of goes along with that. So on that note, there is one more thing that we need to discuss. One more thing that I wanted to talk about is what we need to actually communicate to the restaurants so they understand that the promotion is actually going on and what people need to provide in order to cash in on the promotion. Obviously, stated previously, they need to have a school ID and they need to have the actual ticket with them, upon which the ticket will be redeemed. And that way we can make sure that only students are using this promotion, and we can also make sure that they're not using it multiple times, which would be problematic, obviously. So we need to communicate that to each of our restaurants, especially to the campus restaurant, but all of the restaurants as a whole. Even if students are less likely to eat at the in-town restaurants, it's still a possibility, and obviously all bases have to be covered. But I think on that note, we have completed everything. So thank you very much for meeting with me today, and I hope you have a very lovely rest of your week. Thank you.